Hi, I'm Andrea Anthony, and this is Eat, Drink, and Bake with Andrea. And today, we're all about cooking with tequila. Now, when most of us think about tequila, we think about our favorite cocktails, for me, which is a margarita. But today, we're gonna cook with it, and I'm gonna show you that cooking with tequila can really enhance your dishes and make for a wonderful addition to your recipes. And I'm using a very special tequila today called Mon Tequila. And this was a Montauk-born tequila, and we're gonna talk all about it in just a few minutes. So today I have a very special guest on the show. His name is Simon Cascante, and he is actually the founder and the owner of our product, Mon Tequila. And this is the tequila I'm using today. Simon, you know, what I find interesting about this product and being out here in the restaurant business for over 40 years, I've seen different spirits emerge in Montauk. Montauk's hot right now. But never tequila. Is that how you got started? I mean, how'd you come up with the...
Yeah, working out here my whole life. I've seen the spirits come and go, and some of them have stayed. But there was never a tequila, which was interesting. Nobody'd come up with it yet, and being out here and being exposed to Montauk during the summer, decided why not?
So it's sort of like a niche in the market, you know, that's something that wasn't being done, and you kind of picked up on it.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's amazing because it's born in Montauk, but it's not made here. So where's it made?
Well, all tequila by law has to be made in Mexico, and specifically Jalisco, Mexico. So the first step was really finding a distillery that was able to perform this task. We got in contact with an award-winning distillery in Mexico, which had a branding program. We started from the ground up and worked on the formula. And we eventually got to Mon Tequila, which is what it is today.
And you know what I love about it? I love the design on the bottle. Tell me a little bit about the design.
The bottle was important. There's a lot of bottles out there. Trying to find a appropriate bottle was very hard. We wanted to go for something a little bit more high-end, which is what the tequila in fact is. So we kind of landed on a similar design to other high-end tequilas. We went with wood cork and with, you know, sleek
Yeah,
design.
I mean, I love the shape of the bottle, and in particular, I love the wooden cork. I think that adds a nice touch to it.
Definitely.
Now, when you say high-end, how do we know something is high-end? How do we know that this tequila is the kind of tequila that we want to use as a cocktail and to cook with?
Tequila is very unique in the fact that there's an organization called CRT, which essentially oversees tequila products, any tequila product in the United States. They decide on what your quality rank is, which is described by a NOM number, which every tequila has. Our rank is within the ultra premium tequila rank, you would say. So it's very straightforward. You don't have to sell it to anybody or explain it to anybody. It's on the bottle.
And that's on the label, so once people see that, they know you're talking high-end tequila. What about the taste of it now? How would you describe the taste of this tequila?
The taste would definitely be fragrant, is my best description. There was a lot of sampling involved, back and forth, and we ultimately wanted to make it a fragrant tequila.
And it is fragrant. It really makes me want to have a margarita, which we will have to think about.
Yeah.
And the flavor, how would you describe what the flavor actually is?
I would say smooth.
Smooth?
Yeah, smooth and a little bit sweet.
A little bit. Can we taste it?
Why not?
We have to taste this tequila. See, now one thing about cooking is the ingredients you use, the quality ingredients, is integral to the dish. So I always want to choose a high-end product, whatever that may be. You know, same as you would use a wine in your dish, you want a good wine. Same situation with the tequila. We want a high-end, flavorful, fragrant, smooth tequila to use in our cooking. So I think at this point, we have to get started. So Simon, this is a great product, but actually before we leave you, where can we buy it? I mean, what's the situation? Where can people go to at least find out where it's available?
So we just started. We launched this year, 2019. Our best bet would be looking online. We're growing rapidly, so new accounts are being added, new restaurants, liquor stores. So the best bet would be go online to montequila.com, and there you will find a tab where you'll be directed to where to taste, which will have all the locations that we're in.
Good, the locator button. Don't forget to try this tequila. Mon Tequila, it's wonderful. Watch for restaurants and liquor stores. You're gonna be seeing this product. Simon, you're doing a great job, and I have to wish you the best of luck with it, and I'm very excited. So let's get our recipe going. Okay, so let's talk about our first recipe, which is chicken fajitas. Now there are a few levels to this dish, so let's break them down. First being the marinade for the chicken. Now, we have lots of flavor going on here. We're starting with some extra virgin olive oil. We have our freshly squeezed lime juice, cilantro and garlic, big part of this recipe, and our liquid smoke. Adds a nice earthy flavor to this recipe, and it's very important, a big part of the recipe. We have our salt and pepper, of course, and the flavorings are cumin, sweet paprika, and chili powder. So we're gonna mix all that together, and we're gonna add our chicken. And next we would move on to the cooking of the chicken, which involves our marinated breasts and the vegetable part of the dish, which is basically red and green bell peppers and onions. And we're gonna deglaze our pan with our amazing tequila today, and that's gonna add just a great flavor to it. On the side, we're serving with a Pico De Gallo, which we're starting with some plum tomatoes, and I'll show you how we're gonna slice those. And into that, we're using Vidalia onions, and I like using sweet onions for this dish. Vidalias work very well. We're using some jalapeno, of course our cilantro. We have fresh lime juice, a little bit of white vinegar, and salt and pepper. We're gonna serve our fajitas, of course, in flour tortillas, and sour cream and sliced avocado makes for the perfect dish. So let's get started. So our chicken has been marinated for 6 hours, and it really needs to absorb the flavors. But let's talk about how to make the actual marinade. So Simon, you're gonna help me out here. All right. So let's start with our olive oil and our lime juice. So you can just pour that right in the bowl. Okay, good. We're gonna give that a little whisk. Now let's add the garlic. Okay, garlic goes right in, nice chopped garlic. You can put the cilantro in. Very big part of this dish, gotta use cilantro. Really adds a great flavor to the chicken. And now for our spices. So let's start, well, why don't we start with the liquid smoke? The liquid smoke is such a big part of this dish. It really does add such a great flavor to it. So we're gonna mix that right in here. And now we can put our cumin. Okay, and our sweet paprika. Perfect. And our chili powder. Alrighty, salt and pepper. And that's it. You can see how easy this is. It's a nice thick marinade, and it really works so well in this recipe. So just a few points about marinating chicken. You can put it in a big bowl like this into your refrigerator. Just make sure that there's nothing around it that can possibly touch it because it is raw chicken. You want to wrap it. I've also used plastic bag. If you do use a plastic bag with a Ziploc on it, probably a good idea to double bag it to make sure that nothing drips in your refrigerator. And that's it. Let it sit in the refrigerator 3 to 6 hours. And for this recipe, you can actually do that a day before. If you have the time, perfect to let it marinate over 24 hours. The more flavor gets in there, the better. Okay. and here is our chicken. And remember, we let it rest for about 15 to 20 minutes so that it becomes room temperature and it helps to cook evenly. Okay, so into our pan it goes. I like using this cast iron, gets a really nice sear. And you can see how beautifully this has been marinated. You want to drip off a little bit of the excess marinade if possible. Okay, just kind of holding it. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Hear that sizzle? Just what we want. Now I can already smell the aromas of the spices we've used in this dish, and they're so aromatic. It adds such a great flavoring to this dish. It's wonderful. So what we want to do now is we're going to sear them. Okay, they're going to probably cook for about 2 minutes on either side. Now, something to point out about our chicken breast. These have been sliced very thin. Thinner is better than a thick chicken breast, so if you buy them in the store and they're thick, slice them horizontally. If you can get them thinly sliced, even better, less work. But it imparts more of the flavor. The flavor gets absorbed when the fillets are a bit thinner, so that's important to the recipe. Another thing I want to point out, keep an eye on your pan. Once we put the product in there, it sort of brings the temperature down a bit. So you might have to sort of play with your flame. You want to make sure that it's getting a nice sear. So we're going to just raise that up a little bit, keeping our eyes on it. Now the other thing I want to point out is I always use 2 sets of tongs when I'm dealing with chicken. One for my raw chicken, one for the cooked. Very, very important with chicken. We don't want to have any issues of touching raw chicken with a utensil and eating it. Very important to not cross-contaminate. So we're still going to use these tongs and we're going to flip. Again, about 2 to 4 minutes. You can gauge it by the thickness of the chicken. Okay, flipping, and we're going to let that go just a little bit more. We're looking good on this chicken, so have a pan right next to you, like so, that we can sort of transfer to. All right. Okay, now let me just get my next batch on. You'll probably have to break up your batches. So let's get this going. Okay, just a couple of more pieces here. Okay. Okay, now, very important that you tent it. So always good to tent. It makes the product a little bit more tender. So you want to give that a few minutes, and while that's happening, we'll finish up the rest of our chicken, and then we're going to move on to the vegetables. Okay, so our chicken is done. It's resting. We have it tented. Now you might have to add just a little bit more olive oil to your pan. Not a lot, just a little bit. And let's get the vegetables going. Now you hear that? It should be a little more of a sizzle. So let's bring that up a bit. Okay, I'm gonna put that flame up just a tad. And we have our Vidalia onions, green peppers, and red. And incidentally, you just have green or red peppers. I think green, you need some green, but you don't have to mix them. Some people use yellow peppers as well. That makes for a festive dish. You sort of have creative license for that part of it. Again, we want to keep our eyes on the pan, and you might have to add a little more oil, but we're looking good now. What you're looking for, we want to see that the vegetables have a glistening appearance, and then we know there's enough oil. Okay, so let's let that cook a bit. We're looking for those to be tender, not cooked too much, just al dente for our vegetables. So let's keep those going, and we'll come back and check on them soon. Looks like our vegetables are good to go now. Okay, take a look. This looks nice, cooked, not cooked too much, just perfect. Now it's time for the best part of the dish, and that's our Mon Tequila. Okay, we're just gonna drizzle that right in. And what we're doing is we're deglazing the pan. Any of the juices, remember we have the chicken juices in there, we have the vegetables that sauteed, the olive oil, so anything that's been in that pan and anything that's stuck incidentally is going to come up and become part of our sauce. And it's just wonderful, fragrant, delicious. Now we're just going to cook this for a couple of minutes, not even, just to let the flavors combine a little bit. deglazing, and again, that alcohol will cook off, so you want to give it just a couple of minutes. You can toss while you go. After you've sauteed for a couple of minutes, then just shut it off. We're going to go back to the island and we're going to deal with our chicken. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut the chicken into strips. Now I need to point out, it's a lot easier to sear pieces like this, the actual fillets, than it is to first cut them and then saute the strips. It cooks more evenly. So I like to cook this first, and then what we're simply going to do is come to the board and we're cutting our chicken into strips. Okay, so we're just gonna get this chicken cut. Nice strips for our fajitas. Tell you the fragrance, the aromas, just amazing. It's just such a perfect blend of herbs and spice. And of course our tequila, unbelievable. Okay, so we're gonna finish cutting this up. Now, you'll notice there are juices left in our pan. We don't want to throw that juice out. We're going to add the juice to the pan with our vegetables when we toss the chicken back. So we're going to use all those flavors because that's just a great sauce. The drippings are just unbelievable. Okay, so we're good to go. Now, let's pour the rest of those drippings in. And now, we're going to add the chicken. We'll add the chicken back to our bowl. Just like so, cooked perfectly. I'll meet you at the stove. So we just have our flame on a little bit. Now these peppers and onions are still hot, so we're just going to throw the chicken right in. But we have our flame going a little bit. And once the chicken goes in, you're just going to toss it around for another minute, just to combine all this. Beautiful. Okay, we are looking good. Shut your heat, and we're ready to go. Now it's time for the Pico De Gallo. And Simon, you're the perfect person to help with it because I know at the restaurant you've given me some tips along the way. Your Central American background is going to come in really handy right now. Yeah. But first, let me just point out a few things. Well, first of all, the ingredients. We have some plum tomatoes, okay? Nice plum tomatoes. We're going to use, again, some Vidalia onions. We have cilantro, jalapeno. We have lime juice. We also have white vinegar and, of course, our salt and pepper. Okay. So, most of these are cut already, but I want to point a couple things out. The thing about tomatoes, even plum tomatoes, although they have less membranes of seeds, they still have them, and they can water down your Pico De Gallo. So what you want to do is you want to cut them in half using a little spoon. Do they do this in Costa Rica?
I've never seen that.
It's a little tip. I'm going to move along the way there. Okay. You might be onto something there.
Yep.
When you go back to Costa Rica, you're going to have to tell them about my little tip. Okay, so we're just kind of getting those two membranes of seeds out from each half. Pico De Gallo does tend to get a little bit watery, I notice. Yep. So I find it nice to kind of get that extra out of there. And we're just gonna finish cutting these. You know what, I'm just gonna grab another knife here. Okay. Okay, so. Just like so. And in they go. I mean, the way I look at it is that's going to end up in your Pico De Gallo. Yep. Doesn't really do anything for the dish. Okay, we'll give that a little bit of a mix, and now let's get our ingredients. We have our onions we're going to pop in there.
All right.
You can just let it all rip.
Yep.
Onions.
You know, my mother used to make Pico De Gallo all the time, which is kind of where I got the recipe from. And I found that the key was the vinegar, which is Interesting.
You know, I've never used it until I spoke with Simon. And the truth being said, it does add a nice kick to the dish.
Yep.
I kind of like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, it definitely adds a nice little level to this dish. And the other thing is you really have to let it sit and marinate for a while. So it's probably one of the first things you want to do. Get the marinade done, get your Pico De Gallo done, get it in the refrigerator and let it sit for a couple of hours just so that the flavors combine. And look how beautiful that is. Pico De Gallo. Now on the side, we're also going to use avocado for our fajitas and some sour cream. Sour cream adds a nice creamy component to the dish and it kind of adds to the flavorings of everything, and so does the avocado.
Right.
But there's a couple of tricks with avocado that we have to point out, and you can be the person to do that.
All right. We're just gonna slice this, right?
Beautiful.
All right.
Now maybe it's something we should point out. With avocados, you just want to make sure they're not too soft. It's always tricky with avocados. And I'll tell you the truth, I always get a couple extra because sometimes you might find that you have a little brown in there. And it's really hard to discern that from looking at the avocado itself. So just as an aside, I keep it a couple of extra in the event that you open it up and you find more brown than nice green flesh. But we'll be able to get a lot out of this.
All right. Get rid of our seed here. And then what I like to do is slice within the skin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's nice. So it's actually pre-sliced. Yeah. Love it. Love it.
And then we're going to put a little pressure on
the lime.
Now
by putting pressure on the lime, it helps to release those little cells of juice in there. So you want to give it a nice roll on your board or your island before you cut it so the juice is released and it squeezes a lot easier.
Okay.
And what's important, of course, we have to point that out, is that, of course, avocado will tend to brown. So if you're doing that ahead of time, and I do suggest trying to do that toward the end of the dish, but in any case, you want to squeeze lime juice on it.
Squeeze it right on it?
Right on there so that it helps the avocado not to oxidize as quickly. So that's an important part of our dish. And there's our sour cream. And we're going to talk a little bit about the tortillas. About 15 to 20 minutes before serving them, you want to have a nice clean cloth, dishcloth, and you want it damp, not wet. Make it moist a little bit, a little bit of water, squeeze a bit so that it's nice and moist. And you can take about 4 or 5 flour tortillas at a time, and you're going to wrap them. And then you're going to pop it in an oven of about 325 degrees and just let them warm for about 15 to 20 minutes. And they'll be perfect for your fajitas. So here we are. We have our chicken fajita. Our tortilla's been warmed in the oven. We have our Pico De Gallo. We have our sour cream and avocado. Simon, you're going to do the honors of assembling the first one for us.
All right. I'm going to start with the sour cream.
Yeah, I think that's great. I like using the sour cream first because it kind of helps the chicken kind of adheres to it, like a little glue in there, so. Okay.
The chicken. It smells good.
Oh my God. You can really smell that, right? All those herbs and spice and that little edge that the tequila, just a little bit adds that nice edge to it.
We got this great Pico De Gallo here.
With the onions, the cilantro, the tomatoes, and of course the vinegar that added a nice bite to it. And there we go with our avocado. Perfect. All right, well, you're the one that has to bite it on screen, so.
All right.
And we want your opinion, of course. We need your seal of approval.
Mm-hmm.
Would Mom approve?
She definitely would. It's delicious.
All right, we're good there. Well, I think what's next should be our margarita. And today, we're gonna do a blood orange margarita, which is to die for. Here's the perfect blood orange margarita recipe. Now, we're gonna start off with, of course, our top of the line tequila, and it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So we're using 2 ounces of tequila, 1 ounce of Cointreau, or you can use Grand Marnier or any orange liqueur. We also have our blood orange juice. Now, the thing about blood orange juice is you can't always find blood oranges in the store. You can order them online. It's a great product. It comes frozen, you defrost it, and it's just as good as the fresh, sometimes better because it's more consistent. So I like this product, and of course our fresh lime juice, and we're using agave as a sweetener. And you want to garnish with a little bit of orange and lime, so all those flavors kind of work well together. Well, would you like to do the honors of the liquor?
Sure
I
would.
think it's only fitting,
Okay.
starting with our tequila.
Okay.
It's just a great tequila. I am so excited about this. This is my favorite part of the recipe. Okay.
What's next?
Now, we're going to start with some blood orange juice. All right. Now, we're going to go with just that amount of color, a couple of ounces. Okay. Now, the lime juice, it's about an ounce. Okay, double on the blood orange juice, but the lime juice is about an ounce each. And you know, agave is to taste, but this is 2 ounces total, so it's about an ounce per cocktail. And again, if you like it less sweet, you can go with less agave, or of course you can adjust for more. Now, Simon likes salt in his glass. I do not, okay? We're using kosher salt, okay, on our rim. And again, a nice way to rim your glass is to hold it upside down, run your lime across around the rim of the glass, and then turn it over into your salt. And that's so the lime doesn't drip into the glass when you put your salt on. It's kind of nice doing it with the glass upside down. Comes out perfect. And we're gonna give that a little mix. And I say we give it a whirl. Cheers. Oh, wow.
That's good.
That is good.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect accompaniment for chicken fajitas. I hope you enjoy the recipe. Give it a try. It's just wonderful. We have our completed dish of our chicken fajitas, which has been deglazed by our Mon Tequila, and it added just a great flavor to the dish, with our homemade Pico De Gallo, supervised by none other than Simon Cascante. We topped it off with some sour cream and avocado slices, all wrapped up in our tortilla shells, made for a great dish. And there's one thing I have to say about this dish. It's great for lunch, it's great for dinner, it's even good for parties. It's really all around a great dish to serve to friends and family. I know you'll enjoy it. So make sure you visit the website, www.montaukila.com. Watch for the stores and restaurants where you can find it because it's a wonderful tequila. Hope you enjoy. Cheers. Thanks for watching Eat, Drink, and Bake with Andrea. Be sure to visit my website, eatdrinkandbake.com, for more recipes, and follow me on social media at Eat, Drink, and Bake. And remember, no competitions here. It's all about great food, simple to follow recipes, and enjoying times with our friends and family. Until next time.